Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Walaikum
Yes,
salam.
bro. Yes, brother JK, brother Rash, how you doing? How you doing, guys?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Thanks.
Just watch Netherlands.
Assalamu
get knocked
alaikum.
out.
Wa alaikum assalam, wa alaikum assalam. Yeah, I think Rash, you were mentioning about the Netherlands.
Yeah. I was just watching the footy. It was a good game.
Okay. Yeah, subhanAllah, man. It's some tricky ties and some tricky results. You know what I mean? But no, all good, man.
Yeah.
All good.
All good.
Alhamdulillah.
So let's kick off with this, inshallah. Just before that, there's some noise in the background. I don't know who's making that noise.
And your audio is really bad. Mad, your audio is really bad.
Is it really bad?
I don't know if
Is
the
That
other
sounds
guys.
fine to me.
Okay, maybe it's my side then. All right then. Sorry. Carry on.
But I can hear some. Okay, cool. If you guys mute it for now, inshallah, and when you're gonna speak, just unmute because there's some noise I can hear in the background. But if you guys can hear me fine, that's good. So inshallah, let's make a start. As you know, people listening, they know we do a sort of weekly roundup of the events that have kicked off in the previous week and stuff. And today, I think there's a few topics which are really interesting. First one that I'd like to get your the thought of what you guys think is the news about Matt Hancock, who's been removed, he hasn't been removed, he's resigned, shall we say, as the Health Secretary of UK, and he's been replaced by the one and only yours truly, Sajid Javed. Obviously, there's a lot kicked off in regards to why Matt Hancock felt like he had to leave. Obviously, the photographs were revealed where he was, sort of getting a bit too personal with someone that he worked with within the office, and obviously this went against loads of things. I mean, it went against the social distancing, all the COVID stuff. Obviously, the guy's married as well, but in this society, maybe that's not the worst thing that he's doing somewhat on the side. But certainly, the big thing that did come down on him is all this stuff about the COVID and social distancing, especially because he's one of the guys who's involved in making these rules, which everyone else has to abide by. So, what's your thoughts on this, Rash? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think just looking at it from a Muslim, but obviously from a news point of view, everybody knows what's happened, and you can understand some of the anger because, like you already highlighted, that if he's the one telling us to go out and follow these rules, specifically him, and then he himself isn't following it, it completely exposes the hypocrisy of everything the government stands for. So that's probably why there's been the most of the uproar about it. From an Islamic point of view, I think for our listeners and for us guys, is it just should highlight to us that this is the politics of the West. This isn't uncommon. Just because he got caught, he's had to resign. If he didn't get caught, then he wouldn't resign. If like earlier on when he gave out NHS contracts and stuff to his buddies, okay, that didn't seem like such a bad thing. So again, he carried on. So you can tell the decision on him leaving is purely because he got caught, not because he suddenly had a feeling of guilt that he'd done something. Because we know in their society, this kind of thing goes on in the background.
Yeah.
The thing is, the woman wasn't just like someone who worked with him. He actually employed her. She was his uni friend from back in the day, and he gave a job to her. And apparently, he didn't really follow the processes, like HR processes. Basically, did a favor to a friend, more than a friend. It's kind of emerged now. So it just shows like these guys are actually running the country. But they're cheaters, they're liars, they're deceptive. They hand out NHS contracts and using taxpayers' money to their friends and neighbours. So it really epitomizes the capitalist system, where essentially the capitalists help the capitalists. They fulfill every whim desire. They lie, they cheat on their own family, on their children. And the thing that really kind of it doesn't surprise me, but I thought it was quite telling, is that the media, the UK media, and people who reacted to this news, in the most part, they were more angry with the fact that he flouted the COVID rules rather than his extramarital affairs. So it really shows that to them, cheating and having zina and adultery really doesn't mean a thing. To them, a lot of people said, "Look, that's his personal choice, personal life." But the main problem that the UK media and the UK population really had with him is that he is the health minister. He's the guy who's been telling everyone to follow the rules, and he himself decided not to follow the rules, and he flouted the rules. So it just shows the hypocrisy of these guys who run the country.
Yeah, man. Rizzy, what are you saying, man? Rizzy, it looks like Matt Hancock was getting a bit busy. What do you think about that?
Very busy indeed. In fact, if you look at the job that she had, she was on the board which oversees the health department. Again, so she was in powerful position which investigates the health department. So hence why Matt Hancock been let off so many times. Again, he has inside man in powerful position. So clear conflict of interest. And it shows how, these leaders as well, they're the reflection of the society. And when this event broke out, my initial event was bloody hell. I mean, I'm not too surprised with it, but horrific committed adultery and he's married and she's married. But when discussion with non-Muslims, this was like not even an issue or a major concern, because it's so accepted in the society. Adultery, that's like a common thing which is disgusting, and it's so widely accepted. So truly disgusting, to be honest. The fact that it's so well accepted, and this video recording as well was interesting. Again, it's not something that I can easily get access to. So whether it's Dominic Cummings and his insiders who after tried to bring Matt Hancock down, still struggled. And very likely is that, again, it's not something to get a hold of quite easily. So again, there was a deliberate campaign to remove him.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I would say as well is, the points you guys have made are really good, and we are looking at this from an Islamic point of view. And one thing that generally what we see is whether it's watching Bollywood or Lollywood, or I'm not sure what the Bangladeshis have in Bangladesh, but the thing is it always is portrayed that you have corruption in like the developing countries or in Africa and Asia and stuff like that. And what people don't understand is that there's corruption everywhere, and where we are in the West, what you guys have been pointing out, i.e. the fact that this guy was letting people in, doing like JK mentioned, capitalists doing favors for fellow capitalists. All of this, whether it's the tax frauds and whether it's Dominic Cummings, going traveling X amount 100 miles to visit his parents or whatever, all of this, it goes to show the fact that corruption is certainly alive and kicking here, but it's not portrayed like that. It's portrayed, for example, in the West, that you have a system, you have people who follow the law and they abide by it. In reality, that's not the case. And only once in a while, someone gets caught, as JK said as well. This guy's been doing it for a while, but, gets caught, and then a lot of people are asking for him to be sacked. And even then, Boris Johnson said, no, I'm not going to sack him. This matter is closed. But obviously, he's felt like he's had to come out and resign, because in reality, it would be difficult for him to continue like this. But it just goes to highlight that, as Muslims, sometimes we're in awe of the West. Whenever we think of progress or progressive societies, we look at the West and it's sort of, we think of it as being, squeaky clean and pure and and faultless. But in reality, it is rotten to its core. But we just don't see it that way. And when these few things do happen like this, it's a bit of an eye opener. But then what they try to show is, it was just Matt Hancock, or it was just this guy, it was just that guy. rather than the
Would
system.
you say that is corruption or more an example?
Okay, let me play that, inshallah. I don't know who played it. Who played it, guys? Did anyone play
Was
that?
it? I don't press play.
Okay.
Sorry, I just saw that recording. I press play.
No,
My
don't
bad.
press play, bro. Bro, I have the trigger finger here. You get me? You gotta hold tight. You know what, bro? That even that message is gone. Oh, is it still there? One sec. Played. Okay, it's played. So let's see what this guy's got to say.
Would you say that is corruption or more an example of how the people who are running the system are there for another objective, and this whole topic of morality is just there for public consumption, and therefore, Hancock will be made a scapegoat and he'll be given a position later on. People forget, and the media supports that forgetting mentality as well. So would you just say, or what is it a case of the system is there for a particular purpose, the people who are running it are there for that purpose, and therefore that is the only thing that matters?
What do you guys think?
The thing is, yeah, I think it's a good point. I mean, it's systemic, isn't it? It's not just like there's a few corrupt people at the top, but the system itself carries, prioritizes certain things. So when it comes to capitalism, as we know, it's a capitalist system. The priority for capitalists is to essentially maximize wealth, accumulate wealth for the rich at the expense of the poor. So this event, and it's just one of many events, like the brother's saying, it's not as though this is the first and it's not going to be the last. There'll be many events like this. People will forget about this guy, but there'll be more examples of this. For example, when we had the MP's expenses scandal and all of that, there's a lot of dishonesty within their system, and that's what the system actually promotes, because it's all about self-expediency, helping out your fellow capitalists, the fellow rich, the 1%. And the people are the ones that actually suffer. It's the taxpayers that suffer. So it's a really good point. It's a systemic issue. It's not just just some corrupt individuals. The system itself actually breeds this.
Exactly, and that's the point I was making too. The fact that it's the system here, and the reality is that in the Muslim lands you do see corruption, and you see open corruption. But the reality is that system is designed in a way where that's just normal. That's just how you have to. If you were to try to move away from doing things in that way, then you wouldn't be able to survive. And with that mentality, sometimes what happens is we do look at places like the West and we think like it's just justice, it's this and that. But the reality is the whole system itself is based on expediencies, on benefit. If you can get away with it, then you will do it. And I think that's the main thing. And to be honest with you, I think the one thing that is really important that you touched upon is that the issue. One quick guys, am I breaking up anything? Or
you know how like that Dalek sound? I keep getting that when you're talking, but it might just be my side.
Okay,
you sound alright to me.
I sound bro. A lot of people say that, but well, actually, you know what, man? I forgot my point now. I forgot the point I was going to make, JK.
I was just going to say.
Well, like just go.
Sorry, go on, Rizzy. You go.
Yeah, just going to say, the recent few years, especially in the Muslim community, they're trying to really push regarding British values, the secular British values upon, and this is a really good highlight of what is exactly the British values stand and what they really mean. And Hancock, a great example of what these secular British values are. And good to highlight to the Muslim that is this really what you want? This really what you believe in?
Yeah. Now, Rash, you were gonna make a comment.
No, I was just going to say that just looking at it from an Islamic point of view, isn't it? Because this type of politics, this idea of politics being dirty, is come from, obviously people say in our Muslim lands because they see corruption, But actually, if you look into the Western politics, the corruption is there and it's rife. It just so happens that it doesn't get exposed as often. So now and again you get stuff like this. Then you got the Panama Papers. Then you had the MP's expenses scandal, as JK mentioned. So the corruption is all there, and this corruption is because their politics is dirty, and their politics is what has influenced our politics in our lands. What's important for the Muslims to realize is it's not politics per se that is dirty, because as we know, the best of politicians was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But politics is to look after the affairs of the people. And this is the issue we've got today, is we see those people who look after the affairs of the people as being power hungry, in it for themselves, corrupt, all of these attributes, whereas that's not supposed to be the attribute of a leader. This, in Matt Hancock's case, he's still going to be the MP, of his area, but just because he's not going to be health minister anymore. But again, like I said earlier, it's not out of guilt, it's out of the fact that shame. He got caught, so now he's thingied. The other very quick point on this issue is, isn't it ironic that this concept of being caught on camera, isn't it? As a Muslim, we view it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can see us whatever we do. Therefore, that is our barometer to make sure we please our Lord, and that wherever we are, even if no one can see us, we abide by what is right and wrong. With the Western way of life and the capitalist way of life and the non-theological way of life, whatever you can get away with, do it, because it's a benefit to you. So it's just it should highlight things like that for us, to be fair.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, bro. As Muslims, we have accountability, whether like we're caught or not, and I think that's a really good point. And one just quick point, I just remembered what I was going to say. Rush, it was built on what JK was saying earlier, the fact that about the people being the ones that lose out. And the thing is that actually it's merging into the point you made about politics as well, that what we see is that there is a big disillusionment between the masses in the West in regards to how their politicians behave, and that's why you see low voter turnout as well. And the only issue is that, as we know as Muslims, is that there is a system out there which is a divine system that was revealed to the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that system is designed to govern humans in the way that we've been created to do. But without that system being here, these guys will do whatever they want, but there is no alternative. So you're right.
To be fair, like we say, system. It's not even about. You're right, and the system is what makes sure that all of society is governed, and no doubt about it, that is what will bring back that fruit on the earth in terms of it will propagate. But actually, we see it even without the implementation of the hudud and the systems of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We see it amongst Muslim societies, people who follow the Sharia from a day-to-day point of view. Then you don't see this decadence in those societies, be it even in Western lands or be it in Muslim lands, where the social system of Islam, in terms of within people, I'm not even talking implementation at a state level, I'm talking just amongst people, we don't see this decadence.
Not at this level. Not at this level. No way, no chance.
Nowhere near.
Yeah,
it's nowhere near. Okay, you see a bit of it now because Western culture and social media and just and movies and all of these things are starting to corrupt people even in Muslim lands. But actually, even then, it hasn't got to the level that it is here. And maybe JK can add here, because I was talking to him yesterday about doctors, and doctors are the ones that are the front line. Sometimes they hear the crap that's going on in people's families and the depression that people are going through in these societies, whereas we sometimes don't see it because we just we see people from the outside. We don't really know what's happening in their families and stuff.
I've got some doctor friends, and they tell us that it's the tip of the iceberg. We don't know the extent at which these societies are broken. They see more of it because, we just see the face of people and people smile at you, but actually what's happening in their homes in the background is disgusting, to be fair. Not just cheating.
Well,
Cheating is one thing, right? But the abuse that happens, the domestic abuse, the
mm,
pedophilia, a lot of stuff happens in these societies that we're just not exposed to.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean,
exactly.
just look at the case of Britney Spears, for example. She's come out and said, "Look, I apologize to all my fans and stuff that all these years I try to make it out like everything was all right, but I've been suffering from depression, etc." And what people don't see, like you're saying, they don't see what's going on the inside. The fact that if you were to look at the statistics, you will see that antidepressants are probably as common as sweets for a lot of people. Seriously, I remember one of our homeboys, Muddy. Obviously he's an optometrist, and he was saying that when they get a new patient in and they have to do like a sort of health check, in order to understand their issue and etc. So a lot of the young people, he said majority actually, he said, I think if I'm correct, he said 9 out of 10. He said 9 out of 10 people that are teenagers and stuff like that, they were taking antidepressants. So this is crazy, and this is something it's common. It's really common. We don't see it, but you're right with doctors, and these issues. And unfortunately, I'll be honest with you, we got to be real here as well. These issues are affecting Muslims as well now. I mean, the local imam, he always mentions in his khutbah that people come to them for advice, and he goes, some of the stuff that people come to, he goes, you get shocked, like, really, you having this problem? I would never have imagined that. But obviously, when you're part of that same society, you're going to be affected. You can't get away from it.
Yeah, and to be fair, there's many factors to this, and I think from my perspective, like two of the key factors are that many Muslims, many people, they really don't understand the purpose of life, and without having a real acknowledgement of what the purpose of life is, why we are here, you're never going to have that true happiness. And if you take the example of Britney Spears and other artists and millionaires, really, they've got it all in the sense they've got money, they've got fame, they've got all of this, right? But still they're depressed. Many of them even commit suicide and openly talk about how depressed they are. So what does that mean? That everyone's chasing money, everyone's doing 9-to-5 jobs, chasing money, trying to find happiness. But actually, those who found the money haven't found happiness. And one of the key reasons is that they don't. What is happiness? Happiness isn't mere money and just enjoyment. It's that contentness. It's that knowing why you're here, where you came from, where you're going, and then what you need to do to attain Jannah, as we know as Muslims. And then the other thing, when we talk about the youth, being depressed, and many of them on antidepressants, and it's kind of rife even in our Muslim communities. One of the other things I think is really kind of accelerating this is that kind of social media, Instagram lifestyle, where everything that's shown to us is very fake. So things are filtered, things are, someone who is an influencer on Instagram, for example, will show a life that is firstly not the true life. They will just show pictures that depict happiness and holidays and food and all of this. And secondly, it's filtered, it's fake. They'll make it look more colorful. They'll put the sun in a picture where the sun doesn't even exist. And all of this is just fake, isn't it? Even the way they look. A lot of them will do plastic surgery to make whether their nose or mouth or whatever, just to look a certain way. So it's a very fake lifestyle, a lifestyle full of vanity and how you look. And then the youth use these platforms. So when they see this and see that they don't have these things in their life, this makes them anxious, depressed, and they want similar. And because it's not achievable, it's impossible to get to that, they fall into depression. So I think there's many other things, but these are the two things I think really pushes this problem in our societies, as well as kind of mainly in the Western society.
Most of my day at work, I end up dispensing mainly antidepressant most of the time.
Oh, I forgot. We got our chemistry.
Yeah, that's the majority of my work all day long, and counseling these. A majority tend to be women as well, rather than men. But again, what we find as well now with the Western world, any kind of problem the people are having, the people feeling down or can't find solutions to the problem, or having a mission in life, they link it directly to mental health issue. And reality in most of these is not a mental health issue. It's to do the concepts they carry about life and the purpose of life. Majority of these don't have it. Hence, they fall into all these other all illnesses they're giving names to, and they don't have a solution to it. The scientists or the health officials. If you look at what the solution they're discussing, how you deal with these people, they don't give them a solution to any of the problems, but rather help them diagnose the problems and medicate them or take them to counseling. But still, it doesn't solve the underlying problem. And many of these, when you link it to the deep root of it, is to do with the purpose of life.
No, 100%, man. But I gotta say, guys, I think this discussion is getting deep. You know, it's getting deep, and it's somewhat which I think we need to probably arrange for a time when we will have a long session, because you're right. You know, there's such a big question out there where it's unanswered for a lot of people, or they've answered it incorrectly, and it's definitely worth speaking about.
Yeah, it is a good topic, actually, Maj. Maybe we one for a podcast again, you know, one of our Talking Dean podcasts, because
100%.
depression filters into individualism, it filters into capitalism, it filters into
Liberalism.
purpose of life. There's so
Yeah,
many
yeah.
strands that you can go into.
Yeah, yeah. And the one last thing I will say on this one till we move on to the next topic is that, you know, the biggest victims at the moment are the new generations, because, you know, the challenges and the stuff that they're being pumped with, you know what, how can one not be confused? How can one not, you know, fall into, you know, just follow a certain way of life because it's become fashionable now? It's so difficult. But yeah, you know what, Rash, I think it's definitely one for a Talking the podcast. But okay, guys, let's move on to on the next issue. And this, subhanAllah, man, this is one which is you probably not heard much of, and there's a reason why, because these mans want to keep it undercover, isn't it? But the thing is there's been a report a couple of days ago that well, let me just mention, a couple of weeks ago, you guys might remember that in Canada, that at a school where they used to have quite a large native, the indigenous population, the native Indians, they used to have a large school where a large part of them were catered for the native Indians. They found 215 graves, unmarked graves, and they were all children, 215. Now, there was a big hoo-ha, so you must have heard about it, and people came out, and Trudeau came out and said, oh, this is really bad, and, you know, and what they said at the time, and I remember this, they said, you know what, this is nothing, because we've not even started looking yet, okay? And now, a couple of days ago, at another school, I'm not even going to mention the name of this place because I can't even pronounce it properly, right? But anyway, in one of these schools, they found 751 unmarked graves, okay? And if you look at this, and a lot of since the last one, a lot of interviews came out where people who actually attended these schools, people who are like the indigenous population, the native Indians, they were taken to these schools. A majority of this, well, all of these schools were state-run, and all of them had a very a big influence from the Catholic Church. Okay, and basically she was saying, you know, that we went in knowing our own language, but basically we left not knowing our language. We were beaten if we spoke our language. Basically, it was what they were called, and they actually, I'm not saying this is what it's called. It's called a cultural genocide. Basically, what they were doing, they were wiping out the entire culture of a people. Okay, so now I don't know why these graves, are they graves of the kids who rebelled, or are they just the kids that were abused and then later killed? I don't know, but all of this is coming out now. What's your thoughts on this, brothers? Because this is a serious issue.
Yeah, I was reading about it as well just a bit ago, and it is so these schools, like you said, they were schools for the Native Americans, but essentially they weren't in great condition. It was a way of re-educating these people and making sure that they what's the word? You know, basically they abandon their culture and their background and adopt the Christian, the Catholic Church's adoption. And you know, when Canada initially was colonized, So all of the fact that they're finding these graves under these schools is not a coincidence. It's most likely, like you said, these children were abused, they were sexually abused, they were probably harmed while they were there. Many who kind of spoke out probably were killed, and then they just created mass graves and buried them there. And then they got rid of any, they didn't have gravestones, they didn't have marks, and if they did, they got rid of it because they wanted to hide the fact that this was what was going on. And it really just shows that, especially when you think of Canada, Canada depicts itself a bit different to America. It depicts itself as a very liberal country, all for the rights of people, and even Trudeau comes across as this kind of person who is different to your conservative kind of Trump kind of a person. He's the total opposite, where he's very diplomatic, talks about kind of ethics and morality and stuff like that. But actually, and he's apologized for it, but actually they can't hide what they did to attain, the white race gaining dominance. Whether it be America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, all of these lands were, the indigenous people were totally wiped out. It was a mass genocide. And like you said, cultural genocide as well. Any kind of trace of their background was erased. And as you're saying, this is just the tip of the iceberg. They've just stumbled across these things. There's going to be many more that they will never find because it's been erased, or they'll seek to hide because they don't really want to get this out there, because it really shows them for what they are.
Yeah, and one quick thing I'll you guys can make comment as well, is that just want to add to this, just to give it some, really bring it home. These schools were running until the mid-90s. So just imagine that now. We're not talking about native Indians in America where people say, well, yeah, times were different a couple of 100 years ago. These schools were running till the 1990s. Try to understand that. Yeah, go on. What's your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I was looking into that as well. Yeah, actually from 1800s all the way to 1996, they got records of where they removed over 150,000 kids from the family into the institutions. But what they're saying is the finding coming across these mass graves because they got a lot more better technology, X-ray and all sorts. So that's what's helping them locate these. And I think there's also been pressure from indigenous Canadians. They still got about 5% of the population who are still indigenous, where they allocated these funds to find these graves. But looking at the whole population, what the Europeans done, they wiped off over 90% of the Aboriginals. It's horrific, and these are the true crimes of the Europeans, is to hide. And I was thinking, if you look at compare that to the history of Islam, where we conquer like a third of the world, you will never find, even up till now with all this technology, stumble upon these areas. You never find mass graves of children or women or victims ever found across the Muslim world.
That's a good point, Nice. Their history is littered with examples of genocide, killing, destruction, and they have the cheek to then call Islam and our civilization as being barbaric when they were born upon this barbaric history that they tried to hide. We're not the ones that are backwards. These are the guys that their whole birth came from that. And like I said, I think that it goes back to the first thing we're talking about, where they kind of try to show this moral value and they're good people, but they're everything they do, this capitalist kind of culture, is about what's the word? Expediency. It's for their benefit. So the colonization of these lands was for their benefit. It's for their economic benefit. The fact that they were taking over these lands, controlling these lands, it's all for their benefit. And now that the people that control these countries, they're still doing that. And there might be some rhetoric that sounds like, oh, they're sorry for what they did, but that's besides the point. They did it to get to where they are. And actually, as Rizzi said, I think the main reason that they're talking about it a bit more is that there's pressure from some of these communities in recent times. But if they could, they would try to not even bring this to the news if they had the opportunity to kind of hide it all. That's my opinion. Even like with the in America in recent times, you must have seen like the American Indians. I've spoken about Thanksgiving and what it's really about and what Columbus Day means and stuff like that. and it's come from that angle. It hasn't been themselves putting their hands up. It's themselves trying to save themselves embarrassment by apologizing for it. But what does an apology mean? People are dead now, and they killed them all. So yeah,
they try and take. Yeah, what they're trying to do nowadays is try and take the moral high ground, as if, like they say, oh, we're learning from our history, we're going to be better for it, because when we colonized most of the world, that and all the people that suffered under our colonialism, we've learned from it, and that's why we're, even there's calls for recompensing some of the people and the nations that suffered, like how France have made so many African nations suffer, and continue to do so to this day, by the way. And a lot of people are not aware of that, just because there's not direct colonialism, there's still neo-colonialism going on to this day, where many African nations are still under the thumb of the French from a financial point of view.
Yeah, I think called the Franco. I can't remember the currency. It's called
yeah, exactly. But they try and take this moral high ground. But what I would ask people to question is firstly, at a time when what's happening with the Uyghur Muslims, it's forced assimilation. It's this idea that you can create these schools and you can completely, like you say, cultural genocide of a people. So the fact that this is happening in the world, and even then, the only reason some of the Western countries are now calling it out is for their own benefit, because they're up against China as a political power now. So now they're exposing some of China's crimes. But what's been happening in Xinjiang has been happening for ages. So if you really were wanting the moral high ground, you would have exposed that a long time ago. Why have you waited till China are finally a threat to you? Now you think, oh, okay, let's play the Uyghur Muslim card so that, our human rights look better. But actually, you guys are the worst when it comes to so-called human rights, as they, and we don't recognize that anyway. So yeah, it's a major hypocrisy, and that's what, especially as Muslims, we need to start looking at it from that point of view.
And to be fair, there is a good comparison in that, these schools and this genocide that happened was barbaric, and they killed loads. But actually, the concept of what they were doing is what they're still doing to Muslims today. So, they're still forcing Muslims to assimilate and adopt liberalism and capitalism and democracy. They may not be killing; they are, in the sense that there's wars in Muslim lands. It's still they call it a war, but it is a type of genocide that they're doing. But they'll kind of try and hide it from what they did in the past, and probably not. You can't probably compare it exactly to what they did, but what I'm trying to say is, anyone who calls for Islam, any nation or people who revive and get closer to Islam, they invade these lands and they kill loads and destroy it, and to stop that revival. And in the Western lands where there's Muslims that have come to live here, we have to adopt their liberal values, all this thing they're pushing around LGBT, atheism and evolution, and all of this they're pushing. In essence, the principle is the same. They want forced assimilation of Muslims today, as well as they did with the past indigenous people.
Yeah, and also as well, I mean, the fact that you make a valid point. Nothing stopped. Styles might have changed a bit, but just think about this. Like you guys were saying, it's a fantastic point. They're always trying to hold the moral high ground. But here's a case where we know the reasons why they went into Iraq and Afghanistan and stuff like that, right? But let's just use Iraq as an example. It's clear now, it's open knowledge to everyone that they went in on false pretense, okay? Where Tony Blair came out and said, I'm sorry, as an example, right? I'm sorry, right? That's it. What you have to understand is millions of people have lost their lives. Millions of people. So yes, styles are different and stuff like that, but in reality, in the greater scheme, I don't think they've changed much. People are still dying in their millions, in their hundreds of thousands, whilst they try to portray that, one person, what the value of one person is, so high in reality. But here we have people dying, whether it's to do with malnutrition, whether it's to do with sanctions. It might not just be a bomb that's dropped on them or a bullet that's shot at them. It's a whole host of things, isn't it? But the reality is millions of people have died. And the stats show, actually, since 9/11, millions of people have died, directly, indirectly linked to the wars that America and the coalition of the willing, waged on the Muslims. So yeah, guys, look, reality is, things are still happening.
And if you think about,
go on.
All I was going to say, if you think about some of the topics we're discussing, one of the key themes really is that, what they try to do is they try to absolve themselves of the blame by blaming previous people or previous time. So the Hancock thing, they blame an individual, but actually it's a system that's at fault, and it's a system that produces these kind of issues. With this, with the depression issue we talked about, it's systemic. It's not that people are just more depressed now. It's a system that's caused it. And then with this issue here, they're trying to absolve themselves of the blame, but actually it was their colonial system, and the fact that they today are where they are is because of what they did in the past. And what we as Muslims and people need to really recognize is that it's not a person or people that are to blame. It's the actual culture that's to blame. It's the civilization that's to blame that has caused this. So when Trudeau comes out and says, we're really sorry, and we're very, he comes out with all these nice words to say that they're disgusted about what's been found. Actually, what's an apology going to do? What's an apology? The fact is, it's their system that's created this, and the people need to question that, not the past people and individuals. They need to question the actual system that allowed this to occur in the first place.
Yeah, and and this highlights the need for the world for Islam, because a lot of these problems that we are highlighting come from different kinds of way of associating yourself with other people. So what I mean by that is, there's you see many wars fought on the basis of patriotism. You see many wars fought on the basis of nationalism. You see many wars fought on the basis of religions where people have gone with power rather than the real teachings of the prophets that came previously. So a lot of the problems that we're relating to, and this aligns to the economic problems that we might be highlighting in the Hancock issue. It highlights the the genocides that happened because of previous colonialism. It highlights, basically it's linked to all of these, and all of them are solved by bonding man, or as in all people knowing that there's a creator and living in accordance to the creator, and that's with Islam. So only Islam can eradicate these problems, but yet the world has been, or the West have been able to show Islam as a negative light in order to suppress it. But actually it is Islam itself which is the tool that would take man out of this darkness and bring them into the light, yet they don't let the masses see that light.
Yeah, 100%, man. But
Mark, I was just thinking, the Bosnia, the massacre of the Muslims in Europe, and how the West turned around and say never again. And look, after that, what they did, like you said, in Iraq, Afghanistan.
Exactly.
Even though they said never again. What about Mosul, Iraq, the recent massacre? In fact, it was again, you're right, again and again, they'll continue on.
Bro, it reminds me, I'll be straight with you, on a serious note, it reminds me of a old advert used to come on for Ariston, I think the washing machines, Ariston, on and on and on. And I don't know if any of you guys are old enough to remember that, but
I remember that, but that's showing my age.
You know what I mean? On and on. You know what I mean? Come on, bro. I know you do.
Someone's posted another audio.
Let's see. Okay, let's listen to this one, then let's probably go on to the next topic.
Interesting discussion. Would you, linking back to Matt Hancock, would you say then this is an example of how the capitalists are serving their own agenda? So these wars, etc., to preserve capitalism, they're protecting their own interests, hence why they want the whole world to adopt their way of life, because it secures their position, and therefore they're duping the people into thinking that we're doing this for your benefit, because you're right, the average person is being told, in order to justify these wars, that this is for the protection of freedom, etc. But just like they were killing the indigenous people, is for the capitalists to preserve their interests. and ultimately they just using the media just to twist it and make it sound like they're doing the people a favor, when in reality the interests of the people don't even come into it.
Yeah, man.
I just think that it's a good point. It just highlights the falsehood of this system, isn't it? Because these people, you know, like you say, they do want the masses to, again, like the same word, assimilate, because these social distancing rules and stuff like that, they were there to get the masses to assimilate to a certain way. Obviously, intentionally, they're not going to leak something that makes the masses go against them. That's not the way that their politics works. They want to keep the masses subdued, but because they're on falsehood, you know, and they're looking after their own interests, inevitably people will find out. Inevitably, when you're looking, you know, if he's just trying to, you know, I'm not going to say, yeah, if he's trying to do one on the sly from his wife, if he gets caught and it's in the interest of someone else to expose him, they're not going to really care about the government, because they know that, you know what, later on when I'm out, you know, someone else can deal with the broken pieces. So it's just false. It's the falsehood. Their falsehood, regardless of what their intentions are, will always expose itself, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is the example you gave about Matt Hancock, you know, getting jiggy with it. The point is that the biggest issue people are cheesed off about weren't that he was going behind the back of his missus. It was the fact that, yo, we've been following all these rules, right? And you guys are the ones who made the rules, and you're not following yourself. So
well,
it's
to be fair, one good thing, there's an irony in all of this, and I've been speaking to a few people, non-Muslims as well, where they're just annoyed at this fact that why is it that, you know, they're pressuring us to do stuff, yet they're not doing it themselves.
100%.
And what that's creating is it's creating like the rift between the masses and the leadership. And
100%,
that's good, because we know really that their leadership, all they do is for their expediency and for their financial benefit and for this life, whereas the masses actually are not always the ones to blame, or in most, the masses aren't to blame, are they? The masses have a system implemented over them, and they don't see any alternative. So when they don't see any alternative, the best they can do is call these leaders out. They can't really do much more than that, because there isn't Islam somewhere else in the world showing them that actually this is what a leader should be like, or this is what a system should be like.
And that was the point I was making before, Rash, that what can they do? As in, like, you know, from their point of view, it's like, okay, you know, remove Matt Hancock and bring in a coconut. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's what can they do? What can they do in it? It's like, let's just get on with it. And a lot of these people, they're not interested in this politics, man. They're not interested in this politics because they're so, you know, they're so fed up. This because it is so blatant that these guys have one rules and they can get away with whatever they want. And that's it happened with that Dominic Cummings, because you got to understand when this stuff was happening with this lockdown and stuff, you know, people didn't see family members for months, and some died and stuff like that. People lived in regret that, you know what, I should have gone and visited. And then you hear like the guy who made these rules is traveling hundreds of miles to go and see his family members. Obviously, you're going to be agitated, you're going to be vexed. But what you're going to say? Your frustration is going to be, you know what? Screw politics. Forget politics. I ain't voting next time. I'm not interested. But the situation doesn't change, and that goes back to your point that you know, until there isn't an alternative, you know, this is going to continue. So, guys, there's one more section one more topic I want to discuss very, very briefly. Get your thoughts on it. Really, I mean, I've not got too much to mention, but I think it's worth speaking about. Is you might have come across the news that there's been some scientific discoveries recently. There was a new type of ancient human discovered in occupied Palestine, and also there's in China they found some what they're calling the fossils of the dragon man, and they're trying to show that these people, these species, were different to humans as we have them today, but they lived around the same time. But it's a bit confusing. I mean, the one they found in occupied Palestine, what they're trying to show is that what they were saying anyway is that this is actually the first people to have lived in a way, and then they moved out to Europe and Africa and etc. But they all make it their own stuff up. But what you guys got any thoughts on this?
So you rightly said occupied Palestine. So when I read the headline, obviously it goes new species found in Israel. I was like, oh, they must have found a Zionist, because they're definitely a different species. Sorry.
Heavy point, bro. Heavy point.
Sorry, it had to be done.
I read about this as well, and I think I don't know what much more to make of it, but one of the things that's quite ironic is that, and it actually proves the point, is that this finding about this new human species they found, it actually again shows that all they say about evolution and how we came about is all a theory, because apparently this new finding now puts into question what they previously said. The fact that this new species was living amongst the Homo sapien, or whatever they call it, where we came from, apparently. So I think, forget the detail. I'm not really that interested, but if you read the stories, you'll find on the news, it really makes it clear that this is all a theory. So all they found is some fossils and bones. They don't really know the truth about them, but they have to come up with something based on their findings and linking together other stories and other fossils they've found, and then they depict they kind of create a scenario and then come up with theories of what happened. So it just highlights, when it comes to stuff like this, one of the key things they try to do is push the view that evolution is a thing, and this is how we came about. There's no need for religion. You don't really need religion. It's just a personal thing that you need to think about, but actually it's not a fact. This is the kind of message that they try and push with stuff like this. Even in the curriculum, in the education curriculum, evolution is kind of taught as fact. But what I'm saying here is this story itself contradicts that, because it really highlights that as they're finding out more in science, it changes their narrative. So what does that mean? That means the narrative in itself isn't true. It's a theory. It was never fact. And that's science for you, because science is based on observable evidence, whereas our belief in Allah and our belief in what Allah has said in the Quran is it's not scientific. We don't believe it due to science, but it's rational. It's a rational thought process to come to the conclusion that Allah exists, He's the creator, and He's one, and that the Quran is the unchanged word of Allah, because it's a miracle in language. So so it was interesting, but I don't really know what to make much more of it in that sense.
You know what, Mike? When I looked at that article, they found a skull, and the depiction from the skull how they made is absolutely a joke. From a skull, how did they deduce that this species had really long hair from a skull? If you see the picture, then if you look at how they made the artistic picture of the face with all these fat deposits around the eyebrows, nose, all that from a skull, how did you deduce that? And when you go further down these articles, what's even more of a joke, from a skull, they made the rest of the body with 8 parts, made him all look more like a monkey, like muscular. How the hell can you deduce that? I mean, the whole depiction from a skull and the picture that they draw, this is what a lot of people take away with them. They think, it's got their long hair like that, and the face and the body of that. This is all pure imagination of an artist, and that's not what the real skull is representing.
To be honest with you, bro, to me it looked like the ancestor of Macho Man Randy Savage. If you know who that is. You know what I mean? But I'll see your point. No, what they do say though is, from the shape of the skull, I think they can, from their point of view, how big the skull is and stuff like that, they can work out whether the person was bulky or. But I think the same as you guys. The point is, there's a lot of questions. I mean, even in 1912, when you guys might have known about the missing link, when there was a British amateur archaeologist. His name was Charles Dawson, and he supposedly found the remains and what they call the missing link. And in reality, later on, they found that this was a hoax, because the jawbone that was used was from a orangutan, and the skull, the top bit, was used from medieval human bones. So, obviously, I think they are trying their best to try to find this missing link to establish scientifically, in a way, that there is this proof of the evolution, but it just so happens that they're having problems. But yeah, guys, inshallah, I think probably just end it on that note. Really, is there unless there's something else you guys want to add to that? And,
Yeah, no, just talk about this.
yeah.
See, I was saying all this evolution is a pure joke. The Charles Darwin, how he defined evolution is a change of species, a change of a
Changing
species
kind.
over a long time, and
Mm.
that all the evidence they ever present, whether these fossils they found or any inhuman animals, all they show is change, is adaptations that's taking place. They've never ever documented or can prove from
Yeah.
fossil clear the change of species. So if where amphibian is converted to a mammal, there's no evidence of that. They'll show examples of birds, their beaks have gone bigger, or squirrels, fittest of the survival, they change the dark colors have survived and the other ones didn't. These are all examples of adaptation and survival instinct, and there's no single in answer evidence of evolution at all. So this evolution theory is purely bogus. It's purely a joke.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think like one of the main reasons they do it is that they place doubt in many of the youth, and I think they really push it to teach as fact. And the main thing that we need to really do is when we're speaking, gain knowledge ourselves of as to how our belief in Allah and the truth and the oneness of Allah. But when we're speaking to the youth who are exposed to some of this thinking, we need to clarify. Like Azriz is saying, that what is the evolution theory? It is about changing kind, changing species, and no one's ever observed that. I don't know whether you've ever come across that video where the guy's asking lots of these uni students, from top students, top unis, and all of them are dumbfounded because none of them can come up with a change in kind as being observed. And what they end up what they all end up on is that they have faith in the people who said it before. So it's just a blind faith in the academics of the past. None of them have any evidence of a change in species or change in kind that evolution promotes. So yeah.
Just one quick point on that is that this is what it also highlights, that Muslims shouldn't base their belief system on science. Sometimes what you have is some people do kind of go, oh, okay, the scientific miracles in the Quran, so they'll hold on, that will strengthen their iman or that will bring them to Islam. But actually science, as we know, and the nature of the world and stuff, we don't know enough about it, so things will change. The Quran didn't come as a book of science. The Quran came down as a book for mankind, from a societal point of view, from a criterion point of view. It wasn't about scientific facts. If there are scientific facts in there, it's because it's inevitably going to be science in there because it's from the creator. So everything is true. But to base your understanding and your religion on scientific facts, when things like these kind of new discoveries and stuff happen, what it can do is it can shake your iman, and that's what we need to make sure, that the younger generation really rationally prove to themselves that a creator exists and the Quran is the speech of Allah, and not on the basis of when some people push it from a mathematical miracle or a scientific miracle point of view.
Yeah, bang on, man.
Yeah.
And
there's some scholars. There's been certain from dodgy scholars, you got Abu Layth or Qadi, where we try to reconcile between the two, where they're saying yes, the first human on earth was Adam alayhi salam, but prior to that on earth there were animals or monkeys who later evolved into humans, and we try to reconcile, meet halfway in between, which is purely problematic and totally contradicts the clear-cut verses, and there's no evidence for this reconciliation. So again, there is a big push to reconciling the both together.
Yeah, it's a good point
From the academic.
Yeah, I think the important point is as well is what all you said, and especially the point that Rush made as well, that it's something which is going to confuse the youth, because it is taught as it's a fact, and that is something which confuses the youth. And if they then question this and speak to their families and their friends and their relatives, and if they don't have an answer, if they can't come back in an intellectual manner, then what can happen is, if it, the child, the person can lose confidence in Islam and see it as being something which is just folklore or just something which is just, hocus pocus. And I think that's a really important point, that we see Islam in a way where we're convinced and we go through it with rational conviction and through evidence. But anyway, guys, inshallah, let's end there on that note. Big jazakallah khair to you guys to come on, and for the people who made comments. I don't know what that next one was on about, but certainly brother Afi made some good comments, and yeah, inshallah, let's leave it at that. I know Portugal is playing Belgium right now, and what was confusing me is the fact that I was thinking, is Bruno Fernandes playing the game, or is he on this call? Because the guy that JK has made out like he looks like is just looks like Bruno Fernandes. So I was gonna make confused there, you know what I mean? So cool. Anyway, guys, inshallah, let's leave that, and we'll speak next week, inshallah. Yeah.
Inshallah.
All right, guys.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.